just under a minute to play, and it's a one-point game.
Amazing.
56 points.
Are you kidding me?
The amazing Kobe Bryant.
You know, the idea is a very simple one. And, you know, the Mamba Mentality simply means trying to be the best version of yourself. That's what the mentality means. It means every day, you know, you're trying to become better. And it's a constant quest. It's an infinite quest.
I will be the first to admit, I am nowhere close to being an expert on basketball, and I've never been more than a casual fan of the sport. And yet, I have a tremendous respect and admiration for Kobe Bryant, and I've learned so much from studying his life and mindset, lessons that go far beyond sports and apply to every facet of life itself. You might ask, as someone who really isn't very interested in basketball, why am I so fascinated by Kobe Bryant? Though basketball is not really my sport, I do have a serious passion for self-development. And a book that was recommended by several people I respect was Kobe's book, The Mamba Mentality. I have quite a long reading list, so it took me a while to actually get around to it, and I really wasn't sure what to expect, but then I started reading it, and I was immediately very impressed by his degree of wisdom, maturity, and humility, especially considering that he wrote the book at quite a young age, in only his 30s. Then I started to watch some of his interviews, and some of his games. I immediately came to a particular realization about Kobe. I very quickly realized that this man was a modern samurai. And I know that that may seem like a very peculiar thing to say, and I'm not trying to be facetious or hyperbolic. There's a very specific reason I'm using that word. When you look at the world of professional athletes and celebrities, on one end of the spectrum you have guys who are all about the money, the fame, the girls, the cars, the yachts, the parties, and the drugs. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the samurai. And to me, that word means much more than just a highly trained warrior in feudal Japan. It means, in a much broader sense, to be a spiritual warrior, with absolute focus and dedication, mind, body, and soul, to one's craft. And that was Kobe. He didn't care about the fame, the glamour, or the material things. He was a pure warrior who dedicated his entire being to reaching his full potential as an athlete and perfecting his craft. And nothing against men like McGregor or Mayweather. I really like both of them and think they're incredible athletes, and I think you have every right to celebrate your earned successes. But there was just something very special about Kobe's purity of purpose, and I think it made him one of a kind, even among the highest echelons of peak performers. This is why I decided to devote the time and effort to studying Kobe's mindset, including his book and most of his interviews, taking lots of notes along the way. Though he may not have been able to surpass MJ and Kareem in terms of stats, and he was not necessarily the strongest or the tallest, or the player with the highest vertical, it is my personal opinion that Kobe's mental and spiritual game was unparalleled. I mean, he was drafted directly out of high school into the NBA, earning millions of dollars per year at age 17. Most kids that age would never have been able to handle that degree of wealth, fame, and pressure, and would have easily self-destructed. But Kobe, even at such a young age, did not allow it to distract him from his purpose and long-term goals for even a moment, which I think is a testament to the strength of his mental game. That consistent dedication to his passion, stacked up over a 20-year career, is what made him one of the greatest athletes of all time. This is why the first and most important lesson from the life of Kobe Bryant is to find your passion and purpose in life, to dedicate yourself to it relentlessly, and to have ironclad boundaries and not allow the superficial distractions of the world to take you off course. Doing so will give you direction and a much greater degree of personal power. It will also help guide all of your future decisions in life, from the small daily decisions to the very big ones.
It's very simple. You have to dance beautifully in the box that you are comfortable dancing in. So like everybody's box is different. My box was to be extremely ambitious within the sport of basketball. Your box is different than mine, right? Every kid here has their own box, but it doesn't mean that your box isn't as beautiful as mine. Everybody has their own. It's your job to try to perfect it and make it as beautiful of a canvas as you can make it. And if you have done that, then you have lived a successful life. You have lived with Mamba mentality.
Whether it be sports commentators or other athletes, everyone always talks about how hard Kobe worked compared to everyone else. However, I do think that the term hard work oversimplifies how he operated. First of all, though Kobe trained from before sunrise to late evening, 6 days per week, basketball was his greatest passion in life, and so he always actually found immense pleasure in his work. He worked a tremendous amount, but he never suffered while doing so, and was always working passionately and joyfully. This goes back to the first lesson, and why it is so critical to find your true passion and calling in life, your pure dream on a soul level, and not the superficial expectations of society, so that you can outwork everyone, all while having fun along the way. Next, it is also critical to note that Kobe was extremely strategic, structured, and consistent in his training. Thus, it is so critical to note that Kobe did not work for short, sporadic bursts. He was relentlessly consistent over the course of 2 entire decades, and thus, over the course of years, built up momentum that was utterly unstoppable.
Every kid, every person has the ability to put one foot in front of the other.
One step at a time.
Right? So like if you're saying, okay, I'm going to climb Mount Everest, you're at the bottom of the mountain and you look up and you're going, I'm not going to climb Mount Everest, right? But if you break it down into sections and you just one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, next thing you know, you're at the top of the mountain. So if your job is to try to be the best basketball player you can be, right? To do that, you have to practice, you have to train, right? You want to train as much as you can, as often as you can. So if you get up at 10 in the morning, train at 11, right? 12, say 12, train at 12, train for 2 hours, 12 to 2. You have to let your body recover. So you eat, recover, whatever. You get back out, you train, start training again at 6. Train from 6 to 8, right? And now you go home, you shower, you eat dinner, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it again, right? Those are 2 sessions. Right? Now imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4. You go 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11, right? You relax, and now all of a sudden you're back at it again, 2 to 4, and now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4, right? And so now you do that, and as the years go on, the separation that you have with your competitors and your peers just grows larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And by year 5 or 6, doesn't matter what kind of work they do in the summer, they're never going to catch up.
Lastly, it is important to keep in mind that his strict mindset not only applied to his drills, shots, and weights. Especially as he entered his 30s, he also became extremely disciplined and strategic in regards to rest, injury prevention, and mindfulness.
I meditate every day, and I do it in the mornings, and I do it for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I think it's important because it sets me up for the rest of the day. It helps me. It's like having an anchor. If I don't do it, I feel like I'm constantly chasing the day, as opposed to being able to be controlled and dictate the day. Not that you're, calling the shots on what comes forward, but the fact that I am set and ready for whatever may come my way. I have a calmness about whatever comes my way and a poise, and that comes from starting the morning off with meditation.
As I studied countless interviews with Kobe while researching this video, it was easy to see that he was always very mature beyond his years. Though it may sound too nebulous and spiritual for some viewers, one reason for this is that I truly believe that Kobe was actually a very old and advanced soul. I think that many modern spiritual teachers would probably even classify him as a very powerful light worker. When you go through life, you tend to meet a lot of people who are quite immature, even in their 50s and 60s, and still have a rather low level of consciousness. On the other hand, once in a while, you also meet people who have insights and wisdom that are decades ahead of their physical age, and I think that Kobe was one of those people. My personal belief is that his soul's mission during his lifetime was to inspire others through his athletics, and it is easy to see this reflected in the profound effect his presence had on the people around him. And this very much held true whether he was in Los Angeles, Europe, or even the heart of China. In many ways, I think the most beautiful human beings are actually old souls. But this is a big topic I will have to cover in another video. The following quote from his book exemplifies how spiritually advanced he was. "I made every second of the national anthem count. During those precious moments, I'm hearing all the little sounds and imbibing the energy of the arena. It's a full concentration and understanding of the arena. In essence, I'm trying to feel the energy of the environment and allow it to move through me. That then propels me and fuels me to have a great performance. I've done that since I was a kid, sort of naturally." But of course, the biggest reason for his maturity and wisdom that was always far ahead of his peers is that he was a perpetual learner, always hungry for more knowledge, and drew lessons from every aspect of life, even the little things that most people would overlook. He also actively sought out mentors and strove to learn everything he possibly could from the greats who came before him, including Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and of course, his closest mentor, the one and only Michael Jordan. When you look back over Kobe's life, it's easy to only see the countless triumphs, the championships, the MVP awards, the 2 Olympic gold medals, and even the Oscar for a collaboration with the legendary Disney animator Glenn Keane. But it is so easy to overlook that he also faced countless setbacks, failures, and serious injuries during his lifetime. The game of life is tougher than any sport, is not easy for anyone, and will constantly test you. Perseverance in the face of adversity after adversity is what separates a legend from the rest of the crowd. Kobe Bryant never stayed down after his failures. He always came back. Furthermore, he always made sure to step back and take the time to objectively learn from each and every one of his setbacks. His final game is an undeniable testament to this aspect of his mindset. He was almost 38 years old at the time and had recovered from multiple serious injuries, including an Achilles tear, and yet he still scored 60 points. During the final quarter, he was a one-man army, scoring more than the entire opposing team combined. Even at an age when most players are retired, he played a legendary game, relying not on strength and speed, but on the skill, knowledge, and experience he had accumulated during the prior 2 decades. When he was a very young man, Kobe Bryant set the goal for himself to become one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Yet by the time he reached his early 30s, he developed a new, more transcendent goal, and that goal was to inspire the next generation. When I first heard about the tragic passing of Kobe and his daughter, I thought it was very sad, of course, but I didn't spend much time thinking about it, since at the time, I knew very little about who he was and his career. However, it is only after studying his life and mindset in great detail that I now fully understand what the world has lost. And this goes much beyond him being one of the greatest basketball players of all time. After his retirement, he set out on a new journey to prove that he was more than just a basketball player and wanted to change the world to an even greater degree through his entrepreneurship, his multimedia studio, and his philanthropy. He was a man of absolute focus, will, and passion, and during his NBA career, he leveraged those traits to absolutely dominate the sport. Could you imagine how much he could have improved the world during the next decades if he had the chance to dedicate his superhuman willpower and focus towards philanthropy and inspiring others? Unfortunately, the modern mainstream media in the United States rarely promotes positive, masculine role models. In fact, very sadly, the male figures promoted by the mainstream media today are usually either weaklings or thugs. Young men from all walks of life absolutely need heroes and positive role models to look up to and learn from. Kobe himself had men like MJ, Magic, and Kareem. Arnold Schwarzenegger had Reg Park and John Wayne. Elon Musk had Steve Jobs. Even George Washington modeled himself after the great Roman statesman and general named Cincinnatus.
Where do you see yourself? Did you do everything you wanted to do? Did you become the best basketball player you could ever become? Did you become the best?
It's
GOAT?
It's weird. Like my vision of what my goal is changed drastically as I got older. So like as a kid, I said I want to be the best ever, right? And now you go through your life and everything you do is try to be the best ever, be the best ever, be the best ever. And as you get older, you start understanding that those things are very superficial things, right? And everybody has a different opinion about it. No matter what you do, I can win 20 championships. There's always an opinion on who's the best. Everybody has different opinions. And so I started really kind of understanding maybe that's not the important thing. Maybe the important thing is to, how do we as a team grow? How do I help my teammates be better? So that was the first change for me. And then as I got older still, it became more about how are you inspiring others, right, to find themselves. That is the ultimate championship. So won 5 championships, that's great. Another team won a championship this year. Team's gonna win a championship next year. Those things come and they go. But what stays is how do you use your passion and use that to inspire somebody else to create their passion? And then how can they pass that on to the next person? That is true success. So my goals have changed drastically from the time I was 6 years old to the time I was 17 to the time I was 25, and now sitting here at 37.
In an era that has an absolute shortage of positive male role models, Kobe completely went against that trend and embodied a fully actualized man. A man fully dedicated to his craft, dedicated to his family, dedicated to endless self-education, dedicated to improving and inspiring the world. That being said, it's great to see that there is still a great deal of interest in his old interviews and videos about his life from people all over the world, from almost every country and culture. And I think it is very uplifting to know that even though Kobe is no longer physically here, his legacy is still inspiring millions of young men and women everywhere. And with this video, my goal was to do my part to further honor that legacy.